Hello, I'm Stephen Hesse from Geek Apocalypse, and I'm here on episode 1 of Table Gamers Apocalypse. If we had an apocalypse and we ended up having a zombie outbreak, what board games would I take? Basically, I'm here to review what would happen and what games we would play if we died, which makes no sense at all. This is a redone version of episode 1 of this series, so I hope you enjoy, but I'm here now to review Munchkin Apocalypse. So, why don't you follow me? No, seriously. This way! Hello and welcome to Table Gamers Apocalypse, episode number 1 with Munchkin Apocalypse. As you can see here, I have, just for the benefit of me showing you the mechanics as well as what it looks like when you receive the board game, it makes much more sense for me to just have the camera focusing on the actual board game itself. So this is what you get when you purchase it. In terms of prices, you're probably looking at between I would say $20 to $30 maybe, maybe slightly less. Maybe you can potentially get it for 15, well 18 maybe. This particular one cost me about £18. I think it was roughly $17.99, which is pretty reasonable. So if you vouch around, you maybe be able to get it for roughly around about $22 or £20-ish, maybe a little bit less than that, depending where you shop. Obviously, if you fish around enough, or you can go to your local game shop, and it's roughly they do a reasonably good price for this particular game. This is the latest in the latest version of Munchkin. This is called Munchkin Apocalypse, as you can see. There's all sorts of different Munchkin versions. You can get Geek Munchkin, and also the original Munchkin, and Cthulhu Munchkin, Star Munchkin. There's loads of different variations. This is, as far as I'm aware, the latest issue. Or at least the latest issue I bought anyway, and I must say, in terms of aesthetically, I always think Steve Jackson Board Games, who make this, as you can see on the bottom, make these are brilliant at making games look as nice as this does. It's pretty impressive. So if we, what I wanted to show you first before I get into the mechanics of the game is to kind of just show you what you get when you purchase it. So if I look into it now, you'll see you get, as you first go into it, you see the instruction manual, which is pretty long. I just open it up for you to show you. It looks longer than it should be, so we just bear with me. I'll just open it up. So if you look, roughly that size. As well as the front pages, but it goes through everything in detail. It's more for very sort of basic stuff. If there's something you're a little bit confused on that you don't know the rules behind, then you kind of look into that. Like, for example, when I play tested this a couple of weeks ago with some friends of mine, there was a few rules that came up that they've added for this particular Munchkin, which we'll get into when I show you how to play it briefly. Is that are a little bit confusing, so it's good to have the instructions, obviously, but that makes sense with any board game you're going to have an instruction manual. But what's good about Munchkin, once I get into actually the playing mechanics of it, is really you pretty much are left to your own devices in terms of what sort of house rules, in terms of what you want to do in terms of the rules of the game. But if you look inside, what you will see is you have all sorts of different compartments. For example, the dice. As the dice in that section. You have the treasure cards, which I'll get into, so they're all set in one area. I think these were on separate ones because I have played this, so I think they were in different compartments to maybe this, but you get the idea. The ones I'm pointing at now, these are door cards, which you open a door, you knock down a door, which is a very important mechanic in the game. And we'll get into, in this compartment, are seals. These are brand new. This is a brand new game feature for Apocalypse. You open seals, which if you open 7 of them, it ends the game automatically. There's various ways you can do that, which I'll get into when I show you roughly how to play the game. But what I will say is that in terms of actually like the board, in terms of what you get, it's fairly simplistic. You really understand how you'll get into how sort of simple this is, and for example, this doesn't come with a board game. You have to buy the original deluxe version in order to get the board game, or you can buy it separately on their site or anywhere you care to look at. but it can work without the board. What we did instead of having the individual circles in order to figure out what level you were, is you can use poker chips, you can use 1 pence pieces, you can use coins, you can use whatever count as, whatever it is to let everybody be aware of what level you're on. That pretty much covers. I'll give you a shot of it there. So that's pretty much everything that comes into the game. Fairly easy to put away and not be in the way of anything else that you're doing. You can put it in a cupboard reasonably well and all this kind of thing. So in terms of the way that it's made, I would give it a really good mark for terms of very self-sufficient. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a game and I'm going to show you how the mechanics of Munchkin Apocalypse works. So I'll be back in a second. Hello, now I'm going to show you the Munchkin mechanics in and how to play it. This is how I usually set this up. But you can do this any way you want, especially if you don't have a board game. You can pretty much set this up however which way you like, but this is roughly how I would set it up to avoid any sort of confusion. So what happens at the beginning of the game, as you'll read through the instruction manual, is that you players get 4 of the door cards and 4 of the treasure cards. You then look at the beginning of your turn. There is no strict rule, as far as I'm aware, of who starts the game. You can usually pick the person who looks most like a monster. I don't know, whatever which way you want. There is no real. Usually, you let the experienced player go first. Would be my recommendation if you're with somebody new who's not used to playing the game, which is what happened when I tested the game. So. Just for the purposes of playing this, I will not do it where there'll be 2 hands. There'll be 2 people. I'll be playing as somebody else. I'll just do it as 1 hand and kind of show you how it works. Then obviously the same applies for the however many number of people you can play it with. The maximum you can play this game with, I believe, is 6. But don't hold me to it. I was just going to check the back to see that, but I'm pretty sure it's something like 6. So anyway, yeah, let's get into it. Let's play Munchkin Apocalypse, or as in, let me show you. So, you draw 4 of these, which I've done already pre-arranged, and I drew 4 of these cards. So, in terms of what I drew, I will post them up as pictures as I put them out. So, so if you just look, so what I have drawn is, I have, my class is, I am a kid. My kid, it has, you have classes during the game, so you can be 1 class per person. You can be classless if you don't, for example, draw a class card during your first turn, then you're just classless in more ways than one. So in this book, just to make things easier, I've kind of pre-arranged a reasonably good hand at the start in order to show you the mechanics of the game. So for example, I've drawn a kid, I've drawn a sort of potion, I've drew a monster as well as a disaster card. And in terms of the treasures, which are applicable towards your class, I got some armor, a 1-hand big, a survival school, go up a level, and a police dog. Now, the idea of this game is to go up in terms of combat level as well, and you include the level that you're currently at. Everybody starts at a combat level, and normal level of 1. So I'm currently level 1. The first person to reach level 10 wins the game. Now, how do you do that? You do that by defeating monsters, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So as I said, you pick a class at the beginning. If you don't have one, you don't bother with the class. So for the purposes of this, I picked up the kid. So I will be a kid, and you place it in front of you. So I'm a kid. Kids never get eaten by monsters, and death just becomes loser level. So that's pretty good. And you also have a slingshot ability where you may get +5 to a monster, which I will explain as we go along. So also what you can do so basically regard yourself as a character in the game. So I'm a kid. I drew some armor. So you can have 1 armor per person to equip. So regard it a bit like an equip in, say, World of Warcraft or something like that, where you can equip certain items to your person. So for this, you can do an armor. You can have 1 big weapon, which is a 1-hand big, which is written in the small print, which you'll see on the card that I've just shown you. Or you can have one hand each. You can get certain cards that give you an extra arm, which is how brilliant Munchkin is. It kind of makes up the rules. So you can have you can get weapons that give you an extra item slot, basically. But if you start playing this game, you will understand how it works, how that mechanic works. It just basically means you can add an extra. Whatever it says, if it's an extra arm or an extra leg, you can get an extra. You can apply an item specific to what it says. You get an extra of. So if you got 1 extra arm, you get 1 extra hand weapon, for example. So what I drew here is I drew photo floods. Usable. Some items you get has usable by bloggers only. Now the downside of me drawing this is I have declared myself to be a kid. So if I'm a kid, I can't use this item because it's usable by bloggers only. So I would keep that. But the benefit of this, as it's just come up when it shows, is you get 600 gold pieces. Is how much it's worth. Any given time, you can add the number of items, gold pieces, to 1,000, and at the end of your turn, anything above 1,000 you can cash in, as in put in the discard pile, in exchange to go up 1 level. So if you get, for example, these things, and you decide to do that, you can do that if you so wish, and go up a level without anybody interfering with you, which in terms of stopping you from doing that. But people can. This is the great thing about Munchkin, is that anyone at any point can play what's known as disaster cards, which leads me to this. I've also picked up during my beginning turn a disaster card. Now this particular one says disaster, commando raid, lose your armor. Now if I was the other player in this game and I started with this, I can, during my opponent's turn, say disaster and play it instantly, and it loses my armor. Now if I played this to me with this current setup, I would have to lose my armor card. So that's basically how disasters work. If you pick up a disaster during your knocking down a door, it applies to you instantly. But we'll get to that in a minute. You can also get cards during this. Where you get to go up a level. You can play them anytime you like. So you can go, I'm going up a level, I think actually it would have to be during your turn for these particular ones. But you can play that at any point during your turn. You can play that. Also, what I drew was a police dog. Now you can attach this as if it's an empty slot, because it doesn't require you to have any hands or anything. It's just an extra item that you can hold. So this gives me a +3 bonus. So if I pretended that the lose your armor never happened, because that was just an example of what could happen, and I applied it and I attached this to my class, and I attach this to my armor, then if you add all the stuff that I've equipped this turn, I have my kid as my class, I have a +2 bonus for my armor, which I showed you earlier, and I have a +3 bonus, so I'm fighting at 5 plus my level, so I'm 5 plus 1 is 6. But with the fact that this police dog says I get +4 for being a kid, I get the extra +1 bonus, which is awesome. The police dog has its special ability is it gives you +1 to run away, which we'll get to in a second. So I've went through most of the stuff that I can do during the beginning of the phase, so I will explain what my other items do that I haven't mentioned yet when I start the game officially. So that would be what I would have done my first turn. So I'm fighting at an effective level of 6, which is my bonus items, plus 1 for my level. So I'm fighting at an effective level of 7, which is really good for your first turn. So what does that mean? Well, it means that how you go up a level to reach level 10 is you knock down a door. Everybody does this per turn. So once I've completed my first thingy, I knock down a door. Bang! It is mandatory to do a noise as you knock down a door, just to be more fun. So in this instance, I have drawn a level 6 monster. You don't draw monsters every turn. You can draw stuff that can help you, which I will give you an example of in a minute. Or the disaster card. Do you remember that I showed you earlier would lose your armor? You can. So for example, if this was on the page, if I just pretend this wasn't in my cards and I drew that, I would have to lose my armor like I did before. But I drew a monster this time, so I'm fine. So sometimes the knock down the door can help you, sometimes it can't. That's the beauty of Munchkin. It's anything can happen. But in this instance, I've drew a monster. Now, in order for me to go up a level, I have to defeat this monster. Now, how do I do that? Well, this monster is called Coniferous St. Augustine Grass. It is a level 6. This card can be played into any combat without using a wandering card monster. So that if that was in my hand, that would be very beneficial because for people looting a monster. Which for somebody else, but I will explain that in a second. But in the terms of this is level 6. As I said earlier, I'm fighting at an effective level of level 7, with my items giving me plus 6 and my level being level 1, so I'm level 7. So with this monster being a level 6, you have to have a level above the monster's level in order to defeat it. So I'm fighting at level 7, as we said, so I would defeat this monster, which is the object of the game. Now, what can happen with the other players is they can play disaster cards, like I showed you earlier, like lose your armor, or they can play other stuff, such as this card here, which is a mutated monster, mutate the monster, which gives it a plus 5 bonus. Now, if I was somebody else, if I was another player in this game, I could attach it to that monster, and all of a sudden it's a level 11. Now, I may not want to do that, but if you want to screw with people, which is the whole object of Munchkin, you can do that. Or what you can do is do that and then say to the person, oh, well, I've got a plus 5. I also have a potion to minus 5 the creature, so I can effectively just undo what I just did. But I will want to take treasures off you. Now, what do I mean by treasures? If I win, if I beat this monster, as in if nobody did any of them plus 5 items and I won, I collect the treasure written on the card. For this level 6, it has 2 treasures. So if he did the plus 5 and said I could minus 5 it to get it back down to 7, I will do it. He could say I could do it for the first treasure or both the treasures, because he gets the treasures, I get the level. So it would be a reasonably good deal if that person decided to do that. But the whole point of Munchkin is to negotiate. Now, if nobody, for the benefit of explaining the game, if nobody messed with me and didn't play a plus 5 to monsters or any disaster cards, then I win. A monster goes to the card pile, and I claim 2 treasures, which we said before. Now, what I've picked up is clean socks, which is great because it can be worn with any other footgear. So this is a footgear, but its special ability is it lets me equip other footgear, including it. So it's like literally having a clean pair of socks. So it gives me a plus 2 bonus, so I can attach that straight away after my turn. And I also get some salt spray. Salt spray used during any combat, plus 3 to either side. So what's great about this is you can decide to plus 3 a monster or plus 3 player in order to help them. It is literally up to you. So you can keep that, or it has a 200 gold piece value. So as I said earlier, if you accumulate 1,000 gold pieces worth of stuff, you can trade it in for 1 level. Or one thing I mentioned at the beginning, or you can do it during any time your turn, is you can trade, I think it's actually at the beginning, is you can trade other cards to other people. So for example, if I had the +3 item blogger, like I showed you earlier, if there was another blogger on the table, for example, and I was aware that they were a blogger, I could trade that for something that the kid could use. Or whatever. The whole idea is to trade and to negotiate, that is how you play it, basically. So it has no real role-playing value. It's literally just knocking down a door and trying to kill monsters and trying to get the first person to level 10 wins. Now that is conventionally how any sort of Munchkin is played. The difference being just basically the artistry and what type of Munchkin it is what makes it different. But the new addition that they've added to Munchkin Apocalypse are these things called seals. Seals you can get what are known as these. A disaster card which asks you to open a seal. Now these are exclusive to Munchkin Apocalypse, and so this is a mechanic they added to kind of make it more apocalyptic. If I drew that as my next turn when I opened a door and got a disaster open a seal, you have to open the first card on the seal pile. So if I do that, it says Occupy Doomsday, the highest level player goes down a level. So if this was played 4 or 5 turns in and there's people that went up 3 or 4 levels maybe, or 1 level, then the person who is the highest player at the time lose a level based on that seal. It also, majority of seals have an ongoing effect. This effect is the highest level player has a -3 penalty in combat. So whoever's the highest player at the time that seal is done would really not like the person who just opened the seal. As I said earlier on in the video, the first person to open 7 seals means the game ends, and whoever has the highest combat level strength, as in who's fighting at the best effective level, wins instantly, regardless of who has the best leveled character, who's closest to winning, who's going to win, or whatever. Everything does not apply anymore. It's simply who has the best combat level. So that's the nice added bonus in regards to Munchkin Apocalypse. I think you can decide if you don't want to not play it, but I would recommend to play it anyway. If you don't, for example, as I just played a disaster card, which is a good way of carrying on. If I drew the disaster card instead of this level 6 monster that I just beat, then I obviously open the seal, and this goes on the disaster pile, so that would be currently in play. That seal would be currently in play. So what I could do then is actually play a monster from my hand if I do have one. Now, as for the benefit of the video, I put in my original hand that I do. So I could say to someone, I am playing against a level 2 rodents of unusual size. So the fact that I'm doing that means that obviously I was fighting at an effective level of 7. So I can at the beginning, so I can easily defeat a level 2 rodent. This has a +5 if you had no armor, but I do have armor, so it is just a manky old level 2 rat. So I could beat it on my own. So the same applies. I get the 1 treasure and I go up a level if I do defeat it, if no one decides to mess with me. So that is called looking for trouble. So that is if you don't get a monster when you first loot a room. If you don't have any monsters in your original hand, so for example, if I didn't have that in my hand and I just had the +5 monster and the disaster lose your armor card that I had in the original, so pretend I never got that, then you can just loot the room face down and get a face down door card. Now this is good because you could get a disaster, which in this case I have. I've got lose your foot gear and a level, so I can put a disaster on somebody if I so wish to do that. So that's a really cool card. So you keep that for whenever you want to use it against anyone you so decide you hate and want to lose the game. And that pretty much concludes it. So that's basically it. First player to 10 wins, and it's pretty awesome. I really like this this particular version of Munchkin. There's loads of different other Munchkins. Star Munchkin I haven't played, which I really would like to. But in terms of this game, it's a very nice alternative. So what I'm going to do now is that's Munchkin Apocalypse. That's how you play. Any questions, leave them in the comment section. If I didn't explain something very well, please do, because this is a trial. This is a trial episode anyway, so I'm interested for any critical feedback. Would be really appreciated. But now I'm gonna give you a rundown of my review and whether I would take it on an apocalypse. So I'll be back in a second. Hello, so yeah, all this leaves me to do is to do the review section where I tell you, would I take Munchkin Apocalypse onto actually on an apocalypse, i.e. would I kill loads of zombie brains in order to take this board game when we're all dead, which, as I explained earlier, makes very little sense. So basically it's my review of what I think of it. One of the things I forgot to mention though is what do you do with the roll of the dice? Why is there a dice in this game? What I forgot to explain was, if you fail killing the monster when you knock down a door, if you get a monster, for example, that's level 16 and you're fighting a combat level say 7 or something of that nature, then and no one decides to help you and be basically utter douchebags, then you unfortunately you have to take it. But you do have the option, everybody does, like a free go of trying to roll a 5 or a 6 to run away from the monster. You can get certain items that give you a better chance of running away successfully. For example, the police dog that I showed earlier, if you look at that, you will see it gave me a +1 advantage to run away. Which was good if I decided to do that. Means like a 4, 5 or a 6 would give me a chance of running away, which is 50% chance, as you know. So that's basically how it works. So you have a chance to run away if you fail to kill the monster in play. So that's basically what the dice is. So I apologise for not bringing that up earlier. So in terms of review for the rather beautiful Munchkin Apocalypse, I would give it, in terms of Geek Apocalypse's score, I would give it a 9 out of 10. The reason I would give it that is because it's replay value, which I will give 8 out of 10 for. And the reason for that is because the replay value is good. Even when you kind of pick up the items and what best items to go with what and who you prefer to be and everything, all the games are different, and the replay value is pretty decent. I would have gave it more, but the reason for replay value of only 8 out of 10, but the reason I do that is because there's other Munchkins to play, so it's kind of a little bit, it would be a little bit sort of unfair of me to include all the other Munchkins you can play, because really they're all separate games. So yeah, I give it 8 out of 10, but the reason I give it 9 and I would kill loads of zombies in order to take this on my apocalypse, when apocalypse happens, to play this game, is because it is just absolutely brilliant, and I would regard it as one of those games a bit like, sort of Ticket to Ride or Settlers of Catan or Starflux or something of that nature, where they're simple enough to get even casual gamers, even though I hate that term, to be interested in playing these things. So yeah, it definitely deserves 9, and it deserves an 8 for its replay value, absolutely. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. So yeah, in terms of Munchkin Apocalypse, it would definitely be in my apocalypse. That's for sure. Thank you so much for tuning in to Table Gamers Apocalypse. I really appreciate it. As I say, this is a trial, so do use the comments underneath. If you want to hear some board gamers speak about their love of board games, I did a podcast at www.geekapocalypse.com, where you can look at the link here. Maybe a bit further up, there you go. So if you click on there, and you will find International Tabletop Day podcast I did with my fellow Newcastle gamers, which is awesome. So yeah, that's it. Oh, and if you wanted to find out what Munchkin looks like, as in actual have other people playing it at the same time, I highly recommend Tabletop on Geek and Sundry's channel, who did International Tabletop Day. They do a fantastic Munchkin episode with the guy who created Steve Jackson. So please do have a look at that, and you'll maybe pick up some mechanics that I maybe made a little bit confusing for you, of which I can apologise. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of episode 1 of Table Gamers Apocalypse. I hope you enjoy. And next week we will be doing Starflux. So that will be in 2 weeks' time. So as I said, subscribe to the channel, write as much comments as you like. I'd like to know what you think, and keep in touch with my channel. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.